Howdy, fellow Vine Trippers. I wanted to take just a moment before the show starts to let you know about a great website called Texas Wine Lover. They can be found at txwinelover.com. And they have a comprehensive website that can become your go-to site for information on Texas wines, winemakers, and the wineries that can be found in the state. They even have a phone app that you can download, and that will help you plan your route to create your own wine trip. So make sure and check them out at txwinelover.com. Welcome to Texas Under Vine, an exploratory podcast to scout out the best that Texas wine country has to offer. I'm your wine guide, Scott, and I'm here to lead you on an auditory expedition to the vineyards and wineries across the great Lone Star State. Each episode will cover a different vineyard, winery, or wine-related business operating in Texas. You'll hear interviews, descriptions, and details about each location that will excite you to visit and experience them for yourself. Ready to plan a wine tour? Use these episodes to choose the most interesting spots for you and your friends to check out. Most of all, enjoy hearing about the rapidly growing wine industry in the state and what makes our wines and wineries the best. Howdy, fellow Vine Tripper. Welcome to episode 9 for Texas Under Vine. Today, I'm back on the road and journeying back out into the Texas Hill Country, and I'm going to visit a winery called Astris. Interesting thing about this particular vineyard and winery as we go out to see it is you take this kind of long, kind of winding road that goes right by the LBJ State Park. On your way. So you're going to go out the Wine Road 290, but you'll veer off by the LBJ State Park, and you'll be seeing the beautiful park there as you're kind of going right next to it. The property they have actually is right next to the state park itself. And one of the things about this particular winery is they are very focused on finding what are the best varietals that grow in Texas and what wines do best in Texas. They're very committed to producing 100% Texas wine from their property and from vineyards all over Texas as they source their grapes elsewhere as well. They have a really large property there with a lot of room to grow. They began making wine in 2015, and then they started building this actual vineyard on this property in 2017, and it opened up in 2018 to the public to be able to come in and start experiencing their wines. They do have a full 46 acres of land. So, like I said a moment ago, lots of room to expand as they grow. They do have some plans for that. You hear a little bit in the interview. I did speak with Mike Nelson, who is their winemaker. You'll hear from him in just a few minutes, but they talked a little bit about the room that they have to grow, the types of vines they want to add in, the ideas for what they're going to put in on their property. They just finished a big production facility there that they're really excited about getting that started with this next vintage. And so going forward, all of their wines will be made on site. And so with that new production facility. And so they have a lot of ideas of where they want to go with the actual wine and with the winery itself. So like I said, I got to walk around the property, beautiful oak grove there, lots of beautiful views as you come up to the property, but also while you're there, lots of great places to sit down with a glass of wine on a beautiful day, enjoy the property and see the winery and the land and all the things they have in this beautiful property there. Again, it's not on the main highway, so you do feel like you're a little bit out kind of in the country as you're enjoying this wine. I did get a chance to sit down and speak with Mike Nelson. He's the winemaker at Astris, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the history of this vineyard and kind of where they've come from and where they're going. And he was a delight to interview. So let me sit down and open up the mic to him so you can hear a little bit about what he has to say about this awesome winery and wine destination. Well, I'm here with Mike Nelson at Astris Winery. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Mike. What got you into the wine industry?
So that's a long story. I would say it goes back to when I was a kid. My parents, my dad was in the airline industry. And so his task working for American Airlines was to find small regional hubs for American Eagle to fly out of. And so he was focused on the West Coast, and one of the places that he identified for a hub for American Eagle was San Luis Obispo. Fell in love with it out there. They did. It reminded them of Spain, the central coast of California. And we're talking late 80s here. So it was at that time a developing wine region, which was cool because for them, for us, as kids at least, visiting wineries, they were not these like big, overblown, huge estates. Like they were farmers making wine basically. And there was some really good stuff out there. Fast forward, 15 years, my parents ended up moving out to the Central Coast. This is when I was like a senior in college. So I was 21. My then girlfriend, now wife, we would both travel out there to visit my parents and just fell in love with wine. Absolutely got bitten by the wine bug, pretty soon after turning 21, which is very beneficial because a lot of times that doesn't happen until you're in your 30s or 40s. And I think, not to go too far off course here, but that's something that hampers our wine industry is people that have all this talent that could be winemakers or enologists. They just don't realize in time that that's for them, because they get exposed to it at such a later age. But so not to digress, fell in love with wine. At the time I was in law school. My wife was a teacher. And so we had a lot of opportunities to travel. We had a lot of breaks, spring break, Thanksgiving break, Christmas break, summer break. We had a lot of opportunities to go out there and just visit. And, most of the time that involved a lot of wine. And so we would drink wine, we'd meet all these cool people. And it kind of occurred to me like, man, that's a dream job, being on the other side of that bar, being, the person who's crafted something special that you were showing to somebody. Like that seems like it's the real dream. We got my in-laws, my wife's parents, into wine kind of at the same time. We all were very passionate about wines from the Central Coast, and we started coming back and tasting Texas wines. So this is, 07, 08, 09. And the wines were good, but not great. And there weren't a ton of producers out here. This is early on in the, Texas Hill Country wineries, kind of life cycle. And so we would come to the Fredericksburg area and taste wine and, not be blown away, but come home with a few bottles. And then as years went by, the quality was just increasing ever so slightly, and new varietals were coming to the forefront that people hadn't really grown anywhere else and that I at the time hadn't heard of. You start seeing Tannat and Tempranillo and, Morvet and some of the Rhone varietals that really weren't being featured in the U.S., let alone in Texas. And so, it kind of, after tasting a few of those different varietals, my father-in-law and I were having these conversations like, maybe some of these people just aren't doing it right. Maybe they're focusing on the wrong varietals, or they're using winemaking techniques that aren't appropriate for Texas. And so, what if we started a winery and could highlight those varietals and not others? And, what if we found somebody that could really kind of show us the best way to make Texas wine? And it was a lot of different conversations, most of the time involving wine. You get a little tipsy and say, what if we had a winery? Wouldn't that be great? And I would say my wife and mother-in-law really pushed the issue, because they were just like, you guys talk about this all the time. Like, if you're going to do it, do it. And so my father-in-law, he was a physician at the time, approaching retirement, looking for a second career to kind of, keep him busy. He was like, all right, let's do it. If you're in, I'm in. And like I said, it was kind of a dream job for me. So I was in, and here we are.
Awesome. And do you all four own it together, or how is it?
My in-laws are the owners. Tony and Aaron Smith own the business, the property, everything. I'm the winemaker. I take care of our 12 acres of grapes. Do, odds and ends, landscaping and stuff. We're definitely a small business, a small family business. My wife is our tasting room manager, wine club manager, just kind of our operations manager, I suppose you would say. My father-in-law handles all the finances, all the reporting, all the, kind of paperwork and ministerial stuff. He does a lot of landscaping as well. I mean, he's out here all the time, mowing, blowing, raking, all the stuff. And my mother-in-law, she's helped design the tasting room. She works in the tasting room. She helps manage the tasting room as well. So yeah, we are 100% a family business.
So tell me about kind of this location's history. So you decided, let's start this. We want to have this new venture. How did you get started? How did you pick this location? How did that all come to be?
So it was very fortuitous. My in-laws actually owned a piece of property down in Lakey in Real County. And at the time, my wife and I were living in Dallas. My wife has a sister. She and her husband were also living in Dallas. And so we just couldn't make it to Lakey very often. It was like a 9-hour drive. We had young kids, so all the stops, we would go there like once every 2 years. So they sold that, and they were looking for something kind of more between San Antonio and Dallas than Lakey was. So they saw this property, jumped on it. This is 2014. Jumped on it, and we kind of sat on it they sat on it as undeveloped property for a little while. And then when we had the idea to start the winery, it was very, like I said, fortuitous that we owned property on the 290 wine corridor, and could just kind of start up and go.
Is there a story behind the name of the?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, Ab Astris. So Ab Astris is Latin for of the stars. As a wine geek, you look for wine literature and quotes about wine and that kind of stuff. My all-time favorite, and I'm sure it's a lot of people's favorite, is that wine is sunlight held together by water. A very poetic way of looking at something that we love. And so it comes from the stars. It's a beautiful natural thing. You put grapes in the ground, water and sunlight, that's all they really need. You get these beautiful grape clusters, you put them together, you crush them up, or you press them. The juice ferments into this lovely thing we call wine, and it's comes to us from the stars. So that is what Ab Astris means.
And you said that you purchased this property around 2014. About when did you get everything constructed and get your doors opened as a full-fledged winery?
So we started making wine with John Rivenberg, formerly of Bending Branch, now of Kerrville Hills Winery, in 2015. We started construction on the vineyard and the tasting room in 2017. We opened our doors here selling the wine that we had made, starting in 2015 in August of 2018.
And then you said you have, so I see, and I'm looking out this beautiful window to these vines out here. How much land do you have under vine here? And then where else do you source your grapes?
So land under vine here, we have 12 acres, 4 acres of Tannat, 2 acres of Clairette Blanche, 2 acres of Chasseau, 2 acres of Petite Syrah, and 2 acres of Montepulciano. We have 46 acres that are high fenced back here. So we do plan to expand our vineyard operations here only by a few acres. Like you can kind of see, even though it's 46 acres under vine, we've got the production facility over there, kind of an oak grove, and, the tasting area over here. My in-laws have a home over there. So we can probably add about 4 or 5 more acres of vines on this part of the property. Now my in-laws do own all the way up to the river. So there's like a 18-acre pasture kind of closer to the river that we do intend on planting at some point. It's kind of probably like a 5 to 10 year plan, just with the capital expenses involved and the amount of labor involved. But eventually we do hope to do that.
And where all do you source your grapes from?
So predominantly from the high plains. We are 100% Texas. That's important to start out with. Some people are 100% Texas. Some people are very much not 100% Texas. They'll tell you this is Sonoma Cab or, whatever. And then some places that kind of mix the two, there are regulations that allow the blending of up to 25% non-Texas grapes into a wine that is labeled as Texas. We don't do any of that. We're 100% Texas, and we focus on varietals that do well here. So we do source grapes from Uplift Vineyard in Kingsland over off the North Fork of the Llano River. We've got 12 estate acres here. That's pretty much all of our hill country fruit. The High Plains we get from Newsom Vineyards, which is just wonderful fruit. Neil and his crew they just do an absolutely great job up in Plains, Texas, and Yoakum County. We get a lot of fruit from Pepperjack Vineyards in Brownfield, Timmins Estate Vineyards just outside of Lubbock, La Pradera in Brownfield. We get a lot of fruit from them. Let's see, I know I'm forgetting some people, but yeah, that pretty much covers the bulk of it.
And do you process all of that 100% here on site?
So historically, we have not. Our production facility that you can see through the window is brand new, so we'll be there this upcoming harvest. But for the past 4 harvests now, we have been making wine at Kerrville Hills with John Rivenbrink, as I mentioned.
And so with this next harvest, you're hoping to then transition to your new facility.
Yeah, well, we will be going over there.
Nice. But that's exciting.
Very exciting.
So what are your favorite wines that you make?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So favorite wines and favorite wines that I make, I would say I put those into 2 separate categories. I do still love wine in general and traveling for wine. And when I do that, I tend to try to travel to places that make wine that we do not make. So I still love going out to the central coast of California and just gorging myself on Pinot. I love Pinot Noir. And the fact that we don't really make Pinot in Texas, I can separate, some of the things, the gears that spin in my head when I'm tasting wine out there, as opposed to like here or, someone that makes the same varietals that I do. I really love Tannat. Talking about wines that we make and wines that I love to get, I love Tannat. Tannat was kind of my aha Texas wine. I mentioned that, I referenced it earlier, just tasting a Texas Tannat was, or tasting varietals like Tannat that people had not been focusing on was kind of an aha moment for me. But specifically, tasting Texas Tannat it just blew my mind. It's this great, deep, bulky varietal, that, it can be a wonderful food pairing wine. It can be a wine that stands on its own that you can just enjoy by itself. It's a varietal that can be made into rosé. We've done some estate rosés that have a lot of Tannat in them, and I've had Tannat rosés from other producers. It can be a really nice wine. So yeah, Tannat is a really good one. We've got 4 acres of it planted in our estate. It's kind of one of the varietals that we hang our hats on. What else? I really love Mourvèdre. Mourvèdre is, in my opinion, when you get grapes in and start processing them, you always just taste the grapes themselves. And I think Mourvèdre is the best tasting pre-fermentation grape that there is. Like, you could put a cluster on a table and call them table grapes. Now, you've got really thick skins and a lot of seeds to deal with, but they are very just delicious in flavor. And we've made some really nice Mourvèdres, both from the Hill Country and from the High Plains.
Well, on the flip side of that coin, so what would you say are some of your customer favorite wines? What are the ones that it's hard to keep stocked and people just come in raving about?
Well, let's see. So I would say Picpoul Blanc is among the favorites. It's a white varietal, as you probably know, from the south of France. It's a grape that really retains its acidity well. So you don't typically have to adjust it much in the winemaking process. It's, a lot of just, you press it, you let it ferment, and it usually turns out really well. It's a white varietal that's very good for Texas. There are a lot of producers that are making really good Picpouls in Texas. That's definitely one that sells out pretty fast after we release it. Our Clairette Blanche is a fan favorite too. It's, as a white varietal, we've been able to kind of turn it more quickly from our estate. So it's nice to have an estate varietal to be serving. And you can't really get another Clairette in Texas. So it's it's a unique tasting grape. It really absorbs the minerality in our vineyard very well. And it's a great, again, like Tannat, it's a great food pairing wine, and it's a great wine to just, crack a bottle of and sip it on your porch. What else? So honestly, Cabernet Sauvignon is one of our best sellers. We have made a variety of different cabs from a variety of different vineyards in Texas. And they range from being kind of super light and fruit forward, to being deep and inky and jammy like you would get from, a cab from California or Washington. It really depends on the ripeness of the fruit. The ones that have been lighter and more fruit forward have been picked earlier. Usually that's to avoid a weather event, incoming rain or hail, and you just kind of got to make the decision. Let's harvest it early, not mess with potential rot or, other issues that come after a heavy rain or after a hailstorm. But yeah, people love cab. And I think it's serving cab in Texas is cool because it's not Napa cab and it's not a Bordeaux cab, but it gives you an opportunity to explain to somebody like, look, this is a varietal that you've probably had 100 times and it's going to taste a little different because, this was grown just outside of Lubbock, not on the valley floor in Napa. And so here's why, we have these temperatures and they have those temperatures and this is at this elevation and that is at that elevation. And so it allows for a conversation. And I think that is, the more kind of talking points we have and the more opportunities for education and instruction or explanation, people become more fond of your wine. And, so I like having that opportunity.
Yeah, sounds like a great introduction to the concept of terroir.
Absolutely.
For people who may not be familiar with that or understand the concept of grapes taste different because of the soil, because of the location, because of weather, because of so many different things that go into how that particular wine comes out.
Absolutely. I think it was our 2016 cab. My brother-in-law, he's got a bunch of sommelier certifications and he's a chef. He described it as a Burgundian cab. And I love that because it was a very apt description. It's light, fruit forward, Pinot-esque in its appearance, but made from Cabernet Sauvignon. So it's like you said, the terroir discussion is a good one to have.
So now that we've gotten excited about all these wines and a customer wants to come in and visit you guys and maybe do a tasting and see what you got to offer, can you tell me some of the practical details of doing tastings?
Sure.
Do they get to pick a certain number of wines? How much does it cost? Do they have a flight of wine? How does that all work if somebody wants to do a tasting?
So if someone wants to come in for a tasting, usually on Thursday, Friday, or Sunday, they can just walk in and do it. We do have an online reservation system through our website, astriswinery.com. We would recommend people make a reservation just to ensure their spot. Like I said, usually Thursday, Friday, Sunday, we're not so busy that we can't accept walk-ins, but Saturdays, that's a definite possibility. So definitely we would recommend an online reservation. And then that will entitle you to a flight of 5 of our wines, usually 2 white, 3 red, a white, a rosé, 3 red, and that's $25. Okay. That's refunded with the purchase of 3 bottles or more. And then also we do a free tasting or a free glass of wine for our wine club members. So, once you come, if you like our stuff, which I think you will, if you join our wine club, anytime you come back, a tasting is free for you and for your significant other, or you guys can enjoy a couple of glasses of wine on us.
Tell me a little bit more about the wine club real quickly. So how does that whole process work?
So we ship 4 times a year. We have 3 different levels, 3 bottle, 6 bottle, or 12, and that's per shipment. So, 3 bottles, you're going to end up with 1 case of wine at the end of the year. If you do the case club, it's 4 cases of wine. So it is a lot, but we've got a good amount of people who are jazzed about our stuff. So we've got a good amount of case club members. We do pickup parties for all of our releases, so 4 per year. We do encourage our wine club members to bring friends or, non-club members. People are allowed to do that. We just ask that you let us know how many people are coming. And we'll do like food and wine pairings with our new releases. We'll have food available for purchase and we'll have like kind of other snacks that we can just sell out of the tasting room. Those are usually a great time. We have live music, weather permitting, they're always fun.
Do you do any other kind of events or attractions or things throughout the year besides the pickup party?
We do a lot of stuff. For example, we have a Christmas market coming up on December 3rd where different vendors and, Christmassy type thing, vendors are going to set up and sell their merchandise and wares, kind of in our Oak Grove. We'll still be open for tastings and bottles and glasses, but, so that's one event that's coming up on December 3rd. We just do different events throughout the year. We had one of our one of my favorite ones that I've made is a Zinfandel, a 2019 Zinfandel. And so we did a release party for that because we didn't really make a ton of it. It's like 110 cases. So if we put that into the wine club shipment, it would kind of all go away at once. So we want it to be in the tasting room for a little bit. So we had a release party for that. That was in October. Trying to think. Yeah, we do a lot of events throughout the year. So we'll blast those to our club members or people who sign up for our email notifications. And yeah, we love having events out here because any excuse to have people come out and enjoy the oak grove and the weather and the patio that we have is a good excuse.
Well, you mentioned food pairings and food options a moment ago. What type of food options do you provide? Do you let people bring in their own food, or do you have something you serve here? Or what?
Yeah, we serve kind of your normal cheese and charcuterie boards. We do encourage people to bring food if they want. We do not, unfortunately, have like a full-scale commercial kitchen. So we do allow people to bring, anything from snacks to full-scale meals to enjoy either, before, during, or after their tasting.
What are your operating hours?
So we are noon to 5 on Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, and 11 to 6 on Saturday.
And you said recommendation is to reserve, and you can do that on the website.
Yes.
Okay. What about somebody wanted to come? They have kids. Are you family friendly? Mm-hmm. What about pet friendly? Things like that.
We are family friendly. My wife and I have 2 young girls, and you'll see them out here usually if we're out here. And so, yeah, we're definitely family friendly. We're pet friendly, but we do require for dogs to be on leashes. We've had a couple close incidents where dogs running around not on leashes, could have gone bad. And so we've had to revise our policy to have dogs on leashes. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, we are pet friendly and family friendly.
And then for those that do want to bring kids or things like that, should they bring their own food and drink for them, or do you all have anything that might be offered for the kids?
Yeah, I would recommend bringing
your own.
Yeah, bring your own.
Okay. Do you have any maximum group sizes if somebody wanted to bring a group of people out here?
We do. So for tastings, we limit those to, I believe, 8. We can accommodate larger groups, but not during peak hours. And usually that'll be like at a separate table kind of in our oak grove as opposed to on the patio, just depending on the group size. But we'll do our best to accommodate, if it's a Friday and we just have to put some tables together, that's no problem. But if we're packed on a Saturday, we literally just can't, squeeze a group of 12 into the main patio.
What are your busy and slow seasons? What's the best time for somebody to come out and visit?
So we're definitely slowest in the month of January up until about Valentine's Day. The weather's, not great during that time of year, but if we do have a nice weekend, it's a great time to visit because you get to kind of avoid all the craziness that the 290 wine corridor can provide. You still get to taste all the wines. You just do it without, a ton of people around. We pick up, I would say Valentine's Day to Memorial Day is a pretty busy stretch for us. And then I would say probably Labor Day to Thanksgiving is a pretty big, pretty busy stretch for us.
So if somebody can't, for whatever reason, come here to experience your wine, is there any other option? Do you sell online? How can people taste your wines if they can't come to this physical?
Absolutely. So we do sell everything that we sell in the tasting room. We sell through our website, and we ship, definitely throughout Texas, as well as to 34 different states. So you can get our stuff online. We'll ship it directly to you. Other than that, it's pretty limited. We are in a few restaurants in Fredericksburg, Cabernet Grill, Auguste's, Otto's, Chase's Place. I believe that is it. And then you can buy bottles at La Bergerie, a wine shop in Fredericksburg as well.
So what are your plans for future growth?
Well, I think we're at a good spot where we are. We don't want to grow too fast or too, get kind of beyond where we want to be. A big problem with wineries is scale. As soon as you move from 5,500 cases to 10,000 cases, if you just double your production, you've got to essentially double your you got that many extra barrels, that many extra bottles, that many extra everything. So, for the size that we're at right now, which is, 6,000 cases a year, give or take, we're pretty comfortable, kind of where we're at. I don't think we'll grow much beyond that. Now whether I don't know. It's that's a good question, because who knows what the future holds? Whether it's making wine for other people at some point, or increasing our capacity just to kind of where we wouldn't have to build new buildings or buy significantly larger pieces of equipment. We're certainly open to that, but I think we're in a good spot right now, and we'd like to kind of stay where we're at.
If you had to sum it up, what is the number one reason that somebody listening to this podcast might want to come and visit and check out Astris?
So I would say, I'm going to cheat and give kind of two answers, but I'll boil it down as much as I can. Passion and authenticity. We are extremely passionate about wine and Texas wine. This is it's my livelihood. It's my passion. And so, we don't make bad wines. We work and bend over backwards to make sure every wine that we release is good, will appeal to people, has a food pairing or a purpose. It's like, I feel confident in saying that if you come here and have a tasting, you get 5 wines, and it's, a random selection of 5 wines throughout the year, that you will appreciate all 5 wines, and you won't spit it and say, oh gosh, I don't know what they were trying to do there. You can enjoy, you can bring your friends from out of state. It's a great opportunity to taste high quality, small batch, artisan Texas wine. And it's kind of my second part of that. It's authentic. It's varietals that do well in Texas, grown in Texas by Texas farmers, on Texas land. And they're varietals and vineyards that we've identified as, superior in quality. And I think the wines show that. And like I said earlier, we're 100% Texas. We hang our hat on the fact that we are all Texas all the time. And so if you come here, that you're going to get Texas wines, made in Texas by Texans, grown in Texas by Texans, and you're going to like what you taste. We sell a lot more red wine than white wine. I think the consumer in Texas is excited about red wine, and maybe, I don't know. I don't know if they think white wine is more of you drink that at the beginning and then you graduate to red wine, or, maybe it's just not as bold, or there's just the stereotype of red wine goes with steak or venison. White wine is for fish and, sipping with salad. And we are making absolutely killer white wines in Texas, and we're making killer rosés in Texas. It's a hot climate, and so a lot of the fruit that needs to just hang on the vine and ripen and ripen and ripen doesn't do well here. That's why, Cab tastes way different here than it does in California. It just doesn't get that same level of ripeness. And while white wine grapes do need to ripen, they typically ripen way ahead of red grapes. And so we get that level of ripeness in whites that sometimes we're not able to get in reds. And so I think I would just encourage people to, taste white wines in Texas. We are absolutely crushing it. And I'm not just saying that about Astris. There are a ton of producers, up and down the 290 corridor that are absolutely making killer white wines in Texas.
From the stars, their wines and their location really paint this picturesque view of the Texas Hill Country. Sitting in that fabulous oak grove that Mike mentioned and sipping on sunshine in a glass. I like what he talked about there. Definitely puts meaning into the name of this beautiful wine destination. They have lots of great variety of reds, whites, and rosés in their tasting room. Like he said in the interview, you really, reach out and try some of those whites, some of those rosés, things that people don't normally look for in a winery sometimes, but they really make those to the best of their ability and have fabulous wines there. Their indoor location is very tastefully decorated, and you're getting lots of focused attention from the staff as you sample their award-winning wines. Being a red wine fan myself, I couldn't help but buy a bottle of their Maximus blend for the show's wine library. It's a red blend of several grapes that I really enjoy, several from the Bordeaux type region they're famous for. It was very, very good, and that's the one I decided to lock in on for my wine library. But try a lot of the different ones when you come in, and make sure to, like Mike said, start with those whites, move on to their rosé, see what they can do with those grapes here in Texas. They really do a good job with them. And then I also had to get a couple of other bottles myself for my wife and I to enjoy at home. Since this other bottle is going to be in my wine library, I wanted a chance to go immediately home and enjoy some of their great wines as well. So check out their website. It's www.abastris.com. That's ABASTRIS.com. From the stars. So pull up information about the location, their wines. You can find out about their wine club there. This is where you would go to make reservations on their website that he mentioned. You can see their event calendar there. They have a lot of fun events that they host at that winery. When you go see them, make sure to tell them you heard about them here on this podcast, Texas Under Vine. And from the stars to your ears, this has been a fun experience. But there are definitely more locations to tell you about. So I'm off to research more destinations in Texas. I can't wait to share even more of these exciting experiences and locations with you in future episodes. So if you're enjoying the show, please, if you would, take a minute to rate and possibly review the show wherever you get this podcast. Getting those ratings and reviews really helps the show get seen by more people. I appreciate the feedback that you give. Also, if you've been a consistent subscriber and are thinking of putting together a wine trip and using this as a guide, consider becoming a monthly donor to the show through Patreon. I would really love to have your help. The link is on the show website, and it will give you access to things like behind-the-scenes content that can only be found by my Patreon subscribers. Things like photo galleries that I take at the wineries. I do a video walkthrough at every winery I go to, so you can kind of get a feel for what it looks like and what's there before you even go visit. So go out to my website and click that button to subscribe as a Patreon follower, and that'll help me bring even more great content to you. So subscribe to the podcast, follow my socials to be notified whenever the next episode is posted. Until next time, happy trails and bottoms up, y'all. Thanks for listening to Texas Under Vine. We strive to provide you with the best information about wine businesses all over Texas. Be sure to check out our website at texasundervine.com and follow us on our socials at Texas Under Vine to stay up on all the upcoming episodes. Please email us with any suggestions or feedback. Also, contact us if you're interested in donating, sponsoring, or advertising on the podcast, just to help us cover our expenses and bring even more great info to you in future episodes. Above all, travel safely, and most especially, drink responsibly. Don't forget to also check out the Texas Wine Lover website and their phone app. If you want to plan a trip to the wine destination I talked about in this episode, the site for Texas Wine Lover and their phone app that you can download will really help you organize a trip so you can go see them. You can check out all of the goodness that I got to experience while I was there. But as you're planning your trip, while you're on their website or their app, you can also find out things like accommodations, restaurants, and even some fun events and things that are going on at the wineries, and maybe even find one that you want to experience as part of your wine trip that you never even expected. So check them out. Again, it's txwinelover.com.